Life is short. You have only so much energy to give. It's not just about making a living, it's about making a life.
Well, you may have guessed it from that opening recording there, Dr. Jim Loehr, and this is his legacy podcast. This is in honour of Dr. Jim and the impact that he had on my life, because it isn't just about making a living, it's about making a life. So over the years, I've had the absolute honour of hearing him talk, and the recordings, the snippets that I'm going to share today are from a recording that I took from the PTR conference many, many years ago. I can't even remember which one it was. I've heard him speak numerous times. And with the PTR's permission, I've cut up this recording to just showcase the best of the best, to hear it in his words. And for those of you who don't know him, Dr. Jim Loehr is a world-renowned performance psychologist whose groundbreaking science-based energy management training system has achieved worldwide recognition. He's a best-selling author of numerous books. Leading with Character is one of my favourites, and he's worked with athletes, business leaders, tennis players is where he started. The 16-second cure between points is still something that I refer to with my athletes, and for more than 30 years he has really applied his research and believes the single most important factor in success achievement, personal fulfillment and life satisfaction is the strength of one's character. Bear with me on the sound. I used to travel around with a dictaphone in my pocket, and I simply pulled it out whenever I had the chance to hear him talk. So here are some great messages, reflections, questions that he poses throughout his talks that I wanted to share with my audience. And I think legacy is so important that it lives on in us through something like the coaching podcast. And the last email exchanges I had with Jim were about being on the coaching podcast. So it feels only fitting and feels special to be able to share some of his incredible wisdom with the world. So after first hearing Dr. Jim Loehr in person at the ITF conference in Turkey, I was moved, not just inspired, moved, and not many speakers have this impact on me. It was really different and rare, and it stayed with me. He commanded presence, and I remember taking pages and pages of notes. So after hearing him speak again on different occasions, I decided to take fate into my hands and rented a car from South Carolina, driving about just over 6 hours down to Orlando, Florida, to the Human Performance Institute for the opportunity to meet with him. I didn't know whether he would even say yes to that. It was the only way I know how to be successful, take action and ask for forgiveness later, but essentially knocking on the door and just asking if I could buy a coffee at his convenience is always my one-liner. And with really warm and welcoming, open arms, open mind, open curiosity, he met with me, spent time with me, and the first thing I noticed is that he had his desk on one side of the room, and the minute I walked in, we moved over to the couches, and just taking away that physical barrier, I wasn't sitting across from him at a desk. He was free from distraction and gave me 100% of his energy and presence. And his first question, of course, was why, and all about purpose. So he's a little bit more around that topic from his own words.
Why the heck did you come here today? Why'd you come in this room? Why'd you come to the conference? But the purpose we have for everything, the why behind what we do. I spent so much of my life understanding the dynamics of purpose, trying to understand and try to help people to understand What's the reason we are playing tennis? Why are you in the tennis business, for God's sakes? Life is short. You have only so much energy to give. It's not just about making a living, it's about making a life. It's doing something because you're called to do it out of a deeper sense of you want to make a difference, not just in your life, but in the lives of others. And the more you repurpose what you're doing for something bigger than yourself, something magical happens in us. Completely magical. It defies rationality. All these research findings support the fact that having a deep sense of purpose is one of the most powerful things you will have as a human being. When you really get into the darkest hour of your life and you try to figure out with a great clarity, what the heck are you all about? Why are you doing what you're doing? And is this the best use of the little time we have on planet Earth to make something big happen?
Jim calls this your ultimate mission in life. So let's just take a moment to think about our own purpose. Why are we doing what we are doing with our life? What is our deeper purpose, that deeper sense of meaning? And journal on it. I invite you to take a moment and really go deeper. Have a think about what you're doing today as it relates to your calling. And it's okay here to ask yourself the why questions. Why am I here? Why am I doing it? What's my purpose? What's my higher purpose? What's my deeper purpose? And ask yourself, who do you need to become to get to where you want to go? And just journal on that, reflect on that, and see what comes up for you. Okay, what you're about to hear next, in Jim's words, so good around extending the why, not just for ourselves as coaches and leaders, but also for our athletes and the people within our teams, within the workplace, and asking their why. What's their why? And I love how tennis is such a great life teacher, and he talks about helping your student athletes understand why they're playing the game, the character benefits, and of course, helping them to grow up indirectly. Let's hear what he has to say about it.
And we need to get players understanding why the heck they're playing tennis. You don't play tennis to be a good tennis player. Ultimately, you play tennis to grow up. To grow up, use tennis as a vehicle to become a better, stronger human being. And then if you become number one in the world, you can handle it because you're not a goofball. You're not an egomaniac that thinks you're a great human being simply because you can hit balls better than somebody else. I want to know how humble you are. I want to know how honest you are. I want to know what kind of human being you are in terms of how you treat others.
As many of my listeners know, I'm a huge fan of, again, reflection-based questions, journaling. What great questions in there around looking at and asking your team members, your student athletes, what does humility mean? What does being honest mean? How do you want to be treated, and how do you treat others? And is that what others would say about you?
And if you get it right, that will be the epitome of health, and you will be the best possible example for everyone. You inspire everyone to follow in your footsteps because you are wired right, and you got it right.
And as many of you know, on the coaching podcast, which was the catalyst for my book, What Makes a Great Coach, I did ask Jim to contribute to the book, asking him in 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what makes a great coach? And if you've been listening to this recording so far, perhaps no surprises that he did respond. And he said, transcendent purpose. And I think in exploring that concept deeper, it really is about getting under the surface. Quite often the spoken word is not what's going on for somebody. And how do you keep asking intuitive and questions that peel back the layers of the onion? Shrek will be proud of us with that one, of course. And I think in finding that transcendent purpose for each and every one of us is so important, and Jim's life work is around that.
This whole notion of purpose, I could spend hours on this, and as coaches, you have to understand why you're in this game. And if you're not in it for the right reason, it's kind of a casualty for everyone.
So there it is again, just the importance of knowing why you are doing what you are doing and having that deep sense of purpose. The other area that Jim really impacted me greatly was as it relates to energy. I remember hearing him talk once about our sole purpose in life is to accumulate as much energy as we can in order to be able to give as much energy as we can. And here's a little bit on energy from Jim himself.
You can't be empty. You have to give a lot to get much back.
And what you're about to hear now is Jim talking about journaling. And I know he's done a lot of research in the connection between the hand. If you do use writing, that would still be the preferred method or mode to journal, between the hand and the brain and the connection and the importance of getting things out, doing what you need to do, releasing negative energy, thoughts that don't serve you, because you are not your thoughts. So those unresourceful thoughts are better out than in, because trust me, under pressure, they will play out unresourcefully. I've seen it time and time again, both on the court and in the boardroom. So here are some more thoughts from Jim about journaling.
So journaling. I'm a real strong advocate of journaling. I have, like Dan Jansen, I have every single day that he journaled for 2 consecutive years before he won the gold medal. And everyone said it couldn't happen. We're just beginning to uncover the brilliance that journal. With our tennis academy for 6 years, we did an experiment. We had every kid journal every single day. And the journaling was around, this is a way to invest in changing neural pathways as a training mechanism. Use it for mental training, you can use it for recovery, for healing, and you can use it for character development. We used it for both mental training, but mostly character development. Every single day, they had to set a goal to try to invest energy in one of these character muscles that they really wanted to emulate for the rest of it. They wanted to own, to be a strong person in that area, whether it was respect for others, sportsmanship, kindness, gratitude, whatever. And they had to put it in their journal. Then they had practice, and then they went and journaled about it, and then they talked about it with their coaches. The changes in those kids in the span, and most of them were just from local areas. Lorenzo Beltrami was part of that whole process, was a really, really brilliant addition to these kids' lives, because he helped them understand that tennis is so much more than hitting balls. And these kids all went on to get college scholarships. They went to Harvard, they went to West Point. These were normal kids. But they became extraordinary human beings through the medium of tennis, as opposed to playing all these years of tennis, not getting a scholarship, not playing on the world tour, and saying the whole thing was a boondoggle. We put all that stupid money into it and we never got anything out of it. We should have done something else. That's the greatest tragedy in anyone's life, to put that much of a sacrifice and get nothing back from, because they have a scorecard that was wrongly identified. The reason for tennis is to grow up.
Well, you can hear that's the second time we've heard that message around the reason for tennis is to grow up. And tennis is a vehicle for character development. And really, at the end of the day, if you're listening to this and you are a student athlete or you're a coach, yes, you have your training blocks technically and tactically, physically. psychologically, and make sure there's an element that is about character development. You can even use Jim's book. I have my copy right here called Leading with Character, 10 minutes a day to build a brilliant legacy. And there are exercises and definitions and self-reflection rating scales on words like loyalty, trust, optimism, seeking challenges, having an adventurous spirit, and being tough-mindedness or mental toughness. Whether you're in the workplace, again, or in the sporting realm, how important to link character development into your programs and into your values within the company. How do you show these? And everything starts with self-awareness. And journaling is a huge part of that. So how often do you think you should journal?
Every day, the writing. And I tell you, I have people who hated it. I have an athlete I'm working with on the LPGA and with the PGA right now, top competitors, and one of them absolutely hated journaling to the point where she couldn't do it, and she fought me tooth and nail. Now she writes me about every third day. She says, give me more questions. I love it. It's the greatest thing I've ever done. And she sees this result in her training and with all of her friends and her marriage and everything else. It opens up frontiers you can't imagine. And it isn't fun in the beginning. I'm writing a book. The whole thing is it's a 2-volume series, and one whole volume is journaling questions so that you actually can begin to journal on a regular basis.
I just want to highlight what he said there, in that many people struggle with asking questions. And in the book, it provides you with the reflection questions, the journaling questions, providing that platform. So it's a great resource from that perspective. And I think it is important that as coaches and inspirational leaders that we do ignite that want in somebody. You can't force somebody to journal, or you can't make an employee engaged. And these questions provide the reflective environment for people to choose to want to experiment and explore and be curious with having a go. And what you're about to hear next is Jim talking about the ultimate purpose of journaling, in that we are strengthening our private inner voice.
You only put the positive stuff in there, and you're actually writing how you want your brain to speak to you. You're working with your private voice, training it so that when you're in those dire moments, this is the best voice you can listen to, is your own voice, as opposed to fighting yourself and your opponent. And you're working all that out. How do you want to think about cheating, cheaters? How do you want to think about when you're tired? How do you want to think when the whole world goes against you and you hate serving in the wind and the sun and you're overheating? And you work all that out in advance, and you keep working the territory until eventually you've myelinated those pathways, and they become really, really powerful in those most critical moments.
How good is that? I always talk about perform with pressure, and we experience pressure moments all the time. What a wonderful opportunity to listen to your own voice in those moments, rather than having to look to somebody else to be able to trust your own private inner voice. Have that be your biggest cheerleader. Doesn't happen overnight. It takes hard work, and it's possible to train it.
Because you've done the work, and the journal is an evidence of how much mental training you've done. If you haven't done the work, you can't fake it, because there's nothing in the journal. And I can read the journal and tell if you were engaged or not. If it was complete nonsense and you're doing it simply just to get the job done, I'll call you on it. I need to feel you in the writing. This has to be a genuine search for real answers and creating the pathways that will help you become an outstanding person and an outstanding competitor.
And just a note there that this is one thing that AI can't replace. It can't replace journaling. It can't replace your own thoughts down on paper. And this is somebody who half the time can spell words backwards or miss out letters or doesn't come naturally to me. And it doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be authentic and real. And that's how you build those new neurological pathways that he talks about. So important that it's genuine, authentic. For student athletes, when your coach picks it up, obviously with your permission, they'll know. If they know you, they'll know that you've done the work. And under pressure, that's what you fall back on. So, Jim, what else can you write about?
And so you can also write for healing. So you can just write it out, just puke it out on paper. Get out all the crap out and get it up and then tear that sucker up. And I don't want you writing that very often, but if sometimes you've been through a trauma, a loss, something that's horrific, and you need to get it out, well, get it out. Save that for a different journal. When you read your journal, and I ask you to read it constantly, it inspires you. You wonder, who the heck wrote this? You go, oh, I did. It's pretty cool. Where did that come from? That's the best coaching I've ever had in my life, and it came from me. That's what's brilliant about it. It's coming from you. And it's one of the best ways I know to build character.
So there you hear it. And I mentioned it earlier, better out than in. Trapping our emotions, trapping our feelings. It really never plays out well. We do need to acknowledge them. They are there. We can't suppress them. We can't try and push down negative thoughts. Always better out than in. And you can hear Jim sharing the technique of ripping it up. That's not the journal that you want to have, that you're constantly reading. You want to let it out. Perhaps it's a different journal, or you rip out those pages. So really, really important, that little technique there. And in all of his presentations, he does subtly repeat messages. So you'll hear him link energy with journaling now.
Anything you invest energy in, you're going to get back. And journaling, doing a gratefulness exercise for 2 minutes a day, just listening to things you're grateful for, builds the muscle of gratefulness. It also builds this balancing muscle of humility, as opposed to, because you're the best player at our club, you got this ego that's so out of whack, it's completely ridiculous. Well, I'd get you journaling, and every day I want you to start looking at it from a different perspective. There's a difference between confidence and confidence that's balanced with humility appropriately.
Yes, I'm going to pause it there. Gratitude's big fan, big believer in it. And you hear it balance out everything, building that muscle of humility by being grateful for what you have in the present moment, your life as it is today. So go ahead now, I dare you, and write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And isn't it funny when you write down your gratitudes, quite often I subconsciously smile when I'm doing it. It's the same thing when I'm taking a photo of even complete strangers. I'm asking them to smile and I get this silly looking smile on my face. So the body and the mind are intrinsically connected. I can't tell you how many times I've said that on this podcast. So let's hear from Jim, his thoughts on body language.
Body language. When I developed that 16-second cure, you can't imagine the number of psychologists who wrote me letters and said I was crazy as a loon. Because I was not just hanging on the physical side. And I followed the work. One of the researchers, some of you may know of him in the early years, he's still around today, Paul Ekman. He did this, he started looking at the facial muscles. And he noticed that when you simply move your facial muscles in particular directions, those triggered what we call autonomic nervous system reactors, which actually triggered the real emotions. So when you had a look of a smile or a frown, they could actually determine, based on these autonomic nervous system reactors, they could identify the emotions from your chemistry, and all you were doing is moving your facial muscles. And this has it's been extrapolated into so much more today. And really the battle is between cortisol, which is this adrenal cortical hormone that rises when you get out of balance and you start getting threatened in some way, physically or most importantly psychologically. And the other hormone is testosterone. Testosterone is kind of a dance, and it can change on an instant when it's add in or add out. What you're trying to do is to develop a support system that keeps testosterone high and cortisol low. You do not play well, as in defiance to so many theories in sports psychology that said you play well with a moderate level of fear. I never had any athlete ever tell me that in my entire history.
Well, isn't that interesting? And my good friend who's been on the podcast twice, Kyle Lacroix, actually looked at why do top athletes fail. And in his research, a fear of failure itself was one of the top reasons why athletes fail. So super interesting there on what Jim just said.
Putting your shoulders back, we now know. Walking, I called it the matador's walk. Actually now we have biochemical evidence to support the fact that those who walk around like this and those who walk around like that, those who show all the emotion on the court, they make it far more difficult to balance this very chemical soup that's so delicate. It's just, everything you do has a consequence. So even that little snide comment you make to yourself, you are such a jerk, there's an impact. It's wasted energy and you're giving life to something that is not taking you where you want to go. If you say, come on, I'm better than that, let's do it. Different message. And your job as a coach is to train those messages.
Did you hear it? Our job as a coach is to train those messages. The way that we speak to our athletes becomes and is part of the private inner voice that they are saying to themselves. If a coach keeps saying, don't slap down on the ball, well, the athlete will also then say, stop slapping down on the ball in the match under pressure. It's our job, it's our responsibility. Again, part of our why is to help build the character. How do we do that? By strengthening that private inner voice. So yes, we still need to address issues and address them in what you want to see happen, not what you don't want. Rather than don't slap down on the ball, hey, where's your target? What are you picturing in your mind to help you hit the bottom of the ball? What does that feel like? What does that look like? What can you do better next time? And same in the workplace. How do we want to show up? How do we want our brand to look, sound, and feel when other people hear us and see us walking past them? Whether we're client-facing or within the workplace. It's our responsibility to play a role in supporting the how. Okay, what you're about to hear Jim talk about, I learned from one of my mentors very early on in my tennis coaching career. Rather than talking about being in the zone or being in flow, I love the word state. What is the state that you need to be in to represent those conditions that help you perform at your best? The word state really encompasses the entire body, not just your thoughts, but also your feelings, your body language. It's all connected in your state. And knowing what state helps you and hinders you is critical. Let's hear a little bit more on accessing state from Jim now.
This is another thing. In the early years, there was this whole thing about zoning, getting into the zone. I really preferred this notion of a state, that this was a state that an individual could enter. And I spent several years interviewing athletes and asked them how they felt when they performed at their best. I had them relive their best experiences. And I was blown away. I was unprepared for what we got back. Everyone described it in exactly the same way. Relaxed, calm, positive, spontaneous, effortless, and on and on and on. There's like 12 characteristics. And so I dubbed it the ideal performance state.
So the ideal performance state, just in case you didn't capture some of those words there, relaxed, calm, positive, confident, energetic, focused, alert, spontaneous, effortless, enjoying the battle, mentally clear and fully absorbed, being present. And the ideal performance state encompasses the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual alignment all working together. And just to reiterate, it's a feeling. The state is a feeling. It's like being relaxed but energized, calm but intense, playing free but still being focused, and confidence without ego.
The whole idea is these feelings we have, they simply are registering changes in this chemistry inside of us. When we feel tight, there's a reason for it. When you feel calm, it reflects oscillation frequency of the brain. When cortisol rises, oscillation frequency gets higher, and you don't focus as well. You're more irritated. You get all kinds. So you have to go into this almost, it's like a Zen state. When you look at Federer, you just look at, is he real or what? He'll miss 16 break points in a row, and it looks like he's out for a walk in the park. He shows nothing but this sense of poise, his facial muscles. Very rarely do you see anything but elegance, physically, emotionally, mentally, and everything he does. He is the perfect example, and there are others, many others, of magnificent energy management. He doesn't waste any energy. And I heard him on an interview recently say, his whole life he's tried to figure out how he could do things the most efficiently using the least muscle possible because he felt it would prolong his career. I go, are you kidding me? That's exactly what he's done. He is total efficiency. There's no wasted anything, no wasted energy between points, and he gives his energy, listen to his interviews, it is pure, unadulterated genius. And he's also a great person. He's a great human being, he's a great father, he's a great husband. I mean, he's human. But he has figured out this mosaic of life, and he's kind of done it and become one of the greatest, if not the greatest player ever.
What a great example of the ideal performance state from Federer. And many people don't know when he was a kid, he definitely was not able to access that very often, very frequently. He did have some great coaching, especially in his teen years. He even had an Aussie coach there for a while. And he certainly put the work in to turn that around, as we just heard there from Jim describing how he was even able to prolong his career because of, again, this energy management that Jim talks about so often. But what about some of the other great players? What are Jim's thoughts on them?
Rafa, Novak, there's so many great examples. I love to put this in front of players constantly and ask them who their heroes are, male or female. Look at Maria Sharapova, how many times she was double faulting, 15 all the way to 21, 22 times a match, turn around and then hit an ace. And she kept coming back from that injury. She couldn't feel her shoulder. And she somehow persevered through that. And it's a great example of resiliency, of being able to take a whole boatload of stress, a brutal attack on her in the press, and she would come back the next day and beat her opponent in 3 sets and have 19 or 20 double faults. Who can do that? That is not an accident.
When I was 23, I had the fortunate opportunity to head to the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy and watch Maria Sharapova train. And there's no doubt there was something about her that was special in relation to her ability to compartmentalize and to be able to focus even from such a young age. So I love what Jim had to say just now about her, and have even been on court with her with a corporate program, and she was, while being quiet and reserved, she definitely had an air about her that was fun and jovial as well. So great shout out there to Maria. And I love what Jim's about to say next as it relates to being in this state, the ideal performance state, especially as leaders in the workplace, because it isn't just mental.
Zone, most people think about it as being mental. It is not just mental. It's mental. It's emotional. It's physical and it's spiritual. It's purpose-driven. Fed loves to play. He will play until he can't walk. Because he's not doing it out of a sense of fear. He's doing it because he loves the game. And that is the greatest motivator there is.
This ideal performance state, everything needs to be aligned. And once again, he just references Federer and playing because you have a purpose of why you are playing tennis or why you are leading people in the workplace. And now for one of the most important messages that we all need to hear. As most people know, I'm a learn through play coach, and it is critical that we teach and we create environments where people can enjoy. I like the word enjoyment, and obviously that shows up differently for different people. Knowing what enjoyment means to different people is the secret sauce.
Teach your kids to love what they do and have fun with what they do. That's the secret chemistry, and that's probably the basis of IPS, is the sense of fun.
So what about when it comes to helping people recognize blind spots? Perhaps there's something that they're not even aware of, and factual evidence and seeing something firsthand, and in sport through the use of video, there can be no more powerful tool than that. And in the workplace, it could even be an audio recording of a sales meeting. So think about this in relation to a tool to help give feedback, because feedback comes up all the time as it relates to it's really hard and people don't agree with the feedback. So in our Courageous Conversation coaching toolkit, one of our formulas is the Courageous Conversation formula, TFFI, We Can Fly. And the first F in the formula is facts. This is what I observed. Imagine being able to back that up. Let's hear what Jim has to say about video.
And I love to use videos. It's the hardest thing we have in working with athletes, and just about anyone, is to get them to face the truth. You can't convince them by just talking about it. You need to show them. Get it on video, get them on video, and show them what you see so they can see what they look like and how they walk, how they carry themselves, where their racket. What difference does it make how I carry my racket? I said, because you look like a loser dragging that sucker around. I want you to rack it up. I want your eyes on the strings. And the more they began to realize that the eyes were a window to your concentration.
Taking a lesson out of Jim's book is the importance of repeating those key messages. The eyes are a window to your concentration. The eyes are a window to your concentration. So good.
Wandering eyes created problems for the mind. The mind follows your eyes. What the heck do you want your mind to focus on? Get your eyes under control. They say, well, it's mental. No, it's physical. It's all physical because it's all driven by chemistry, electrical, chemical energy. So there are so many great examples. Rafa's brilliant in intensity and commitment and never giving up. There's so many examples out. Put them on video, get them on video, get them to face the truth.
So just another note on video, you can hear Jim talk about there to show examples of people that are doing it well, role models, people that, especially if you know that they look up to these people. And the other point that I'll add there, and we heard this on a previous podcast episode with Betty Sokolowski, the data analyst, talking about also to show the person when they're doing things well. So if you have the factual proof in that, there's no doubt strengthening strengths is super important. So using any form of evidence that can help support them strengthening their strengths and getting them to face the truth, the blind spots, the areas for development, and then showing role models where we want to go. How can you take one thing from another person and add it to your own successful toolkit? Right now on rituals, and of course, if you haven't heard of the 16-second cure and you are a tennis coach, please Google it immediately.
And then rituals, we are creatures of habit. Everything we do, if you want to understand how people do these amazing things, SEAL Team 6, you want to understand how Navy SEALs, execute flawlessly, it's because they practice it over and over. They have a ritual for everything. And you can get to the point where you're almost OCD, obsessive compulsive, but it's all right as long as you don't go too far. The more you can habituate something, the brain is free to do whatever it needs to in that moment to solve the riddle.
How good is that? An example of why rituals and habits are so important, because then the brain is free to solve the riddle. When we're under pressure, when we're performing with pressure, the more disciplined your rituals and habits, then the brain is able to solve the riddle, problem solve in the moment.
Ritualize everything you can. You're eating, you're exercising, and then you're free to kind of let your mind go and to put your energy more consciously into things that matter, and you're free to kind of innovate and be creative. The difference between a regular soldier and a special operations team, special operators, they have rituals for everything, for cold, for hot. They have, anytime they get into a situation where they don't have rituals that help to guide them, they are in serious trouble. So they are always planning for the unexpected. They're always building a way to deal with this impossible situation that was never ever considered before. And that's what we need to do with our players. And that metaphor goes into life. We never know what the heck is going to happen to us in life. We never know what's going to come out of nowhere. But we want to be as prepared as we can be. And we should have everything from post-match, pre-match, practice routines, and post-match practice. And I'm a total, I believe, preparation. The more prepared you are, cortisol levels hate preparation. The more prepared you are, the more testosterone just rises in that sense of confidence. That's where it comes from. There's no cheap way to the top. You got to do your homework. And that's true in business, in anything you care about.
Preparation. I'm saying it again and again and again. We all know it. And I can totally relate when I'm just that little bit underprepared. Yes, you can get away with it and fake it sometimes, but the more prepared you are, you allow that mind to problem solve, to perform under pressure, to be creative. We heard the word creative in there, and it is the key. He talks about it in business and in life. And the thing about preparation is that you can tweak it as well. Keep refining it so that you know what's going to help you continually improve. And I know Jim talks a lot about, back to purpose for a minute, talks about how do we get better each and every time. And this self-reflection process and refining your preparation. Let's hear it from Jim.
But it's always the iteration is I'm going to get better. After every match, the most important thing is, what can I learn from that match, from that loss, from that victory? We tend to learn much more from losses than we do victories. We just walk away from victories thinking it was perfect, and it wasn't perfect. I always want to know what we could have done better. Everything in life, always look at what we can do to raise the bar a little bit and move the ball forward in spite of some gut-wrenching, very difficult thing we had to go through. And that preparation is not one-dimensional.
And thanks, Jim, for that reminder that preparation is not one-dimensional. Okay, you heard it earlier. It's mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, all wrapped up in your purpose.
Everyone I work with, I say the same thing from the beginning. My goal is to get you out of my life. I do not want you developing a dependency on me. If you do great things, it is not because of me. It's because learnings that you have put together. I've stimulated some things. But my goal is to make you a better coach for yourself.
My goal is to get you out of my life. As a young coach, people used to ask me when they would come to me, what's my purpose? And I said, to make myself redundant. And one of my business mentors said, well, that's not a very good strategy. And from a coach perspective, what I meant was to give you all the tools that you have to succeed beyond me on the court when you're all alone and your character is exposed, or should I say, and went later in life when you are in the business world, in your career, or being a parent, being a mother, being a father, that you have the tools that you can fall back on, that the great sport of tennis was the vehicle to teach you those character tools and traits for you to be able to problem solve, be able to perform under pressure. Because at the end of the day, I hear a lot of people say, I've just got to get through this. I just need to get through the summer or through this semester or through this term if I can just get to the other side. And I think that we really are doing ourselves a disservice. Like, I get it. And I wonder if we all had more tools to help us deal with hard better, to be more resilient, and to appreciate the moment. I'll never forget when one of my mentors said to me once, I told him I was going through a really tough time, and he said, what a gift. Emma, you're exactly where you're meant to be. And probably didn't appreciate it, my young self back then, because I said, yeah, because it sucks. And he said, this sets you up. The balance of life, the equilibrium will, it's never going to be level. It is going to help you enjoy all of the moments that life throws at us.
I want to get you to fly on your own and realize that all Jim Loehr did was to guide me at a critical time, and he taught me how to fly on my own.
Whoa, Jim. Thank you for helping me fly on my own. You gave of your time freely, and I'm forever grateful for the conversations that we had, the inspiration that you gave, and the belief in my ability to fly on my own. If you're listening to this, I'm giving you permission to fly. Grab a copy of Jim's books and revisit that purpose of yours.
And I'm going to do that with everyone that I mentor as well. Dependency is a crutch. It gets more money in your pocket. It makes you feel good because you begin to think, you get them to believe that, all of their greatness. I've had coaches, I've had players, and I know coaches by their players. The players have said to me, their coaches told me over and over and over again, if you ever leave me, first of all, I made you. And if you ever leave me, you will fall apart. You can't do it without me. I'm the reason you are the success you are. And when that person left that person, it's exactly what happened, because that was embedded, indoctrinated into their psychological operation, and then they had to fight for a very long time to find their own ability to self-direct without that voice saying, do what I tell you because I know what I'm doing and I will make you great, and if you become great, it's because of me. Don't ever, ever forget it. And I will tell you, that is a disservice to human beings in this game that's so tragic.
Thank you for being a mentor to me. And a few last comments from Jim, and if you're a parent listening to this, and I'm not a parent, I am an auntie, but I do believe that one of our primary roles is to help children, young people, people in your team, help them fly, spread their wings and fly, stand on their own 2 feet, accept that life is hard at times, fall back on their rituals, routines, habits, because they've done the work, that they've done the preparation. Thank you, Jim. Again, I'm full of gratitude to be able to share some of these pearls of wisdom. on the Coaching Podcast.
When someone goes off and does great things and they don't even mention me, or they mention me slightly, I'm happy because I know I did the best I could do, and they're okay. They're doing great things in life. That's what I want. Life is short. You have only so much energy to give. It's not just about making a living, it's about making a life.
Well, that's a wrap from Dr. Jim Loehr. Some absolute pearls of wisdom in this episode. Again, thank you for your patience with the sound. I was sitting in close to the back that day and trying to capture any word I could to replay it back for my own learning. And I'm forever grateful that I knocked on his door, jumped in the car and took a chance. And he even, on the back of my book, he said, I have the highest respect for Emma Doyle. It is rare to witness someone so devoted, enthusiastic, and driven by her passion. And now we can all benefit from her years of experience in this book. Jim, thank you for everything that you've done. This is your legacy episode. And of course, please, everybody, also check out the Coaching Podcast with Jack Groppel, who was Jim Loehr's business partner at the Human Performance Institute. There are many YouTube videos with Dr. Jim talking about journaling, the power of the inner voice, and I'll put some of my favorites in the show notes as well. So on that note, feel free to journal some of the things that stood out for you in this episode. Remember, it's all about how do we take one thing that somebody said and add it to our own coaching, life, and leadership toolkit. As always, thanks everyone for listening, and thank you, Jim. And please remember, this season of the Coaching Podcast is brought to you by Sam, the AI tool built for the coaching world. If you're a coach, Sam takes the stress out of marketing so you can spend more time doing what you love, which of course is coaching. And if you're looking for a coach, think of Sam as a matchmaking service without the romance, helping you find the right coach at the right time. Discover how simple it is at trysam.ai.
The Coaching Podcast is sponsored by Transition Coach for Athletes, a global coaching, mentoring, and US college sporting scholarship placement service. The service helps athletes navigate the often challenging world of choosing your best college fit while maximizing sports performance. Visit www.transitioncoachforathletes.com.